We mentioned during our argument yesterday that the defense concedes that there were no visible injuries on accused number 1, and paragraph 6.27 of the heads reads as follows: the probabilities are that the perpetrators of the assaults used techniques that were designed to leave no visible marks. It is not like the perpetrators were involved in any legal action. The police are aware that assault and torture are illegal, and if they engage in such conduct, they would be careful to conceal their crime and leave no visible injuries. In any event, accused 1 did not claim that the assault had left any such marks or injuries. So, yesterday, my lord, we argued that the defense is conceding that there were no visible injuries as depicted in the occurrence book.
Yeah, but now the submission about the police using specialized techniques, is there any evidence predicating that submission?
We submit, my lord, that there is no such evidence, my lord. It is just mere speculation.
Was it ever put as a supposition?
Yes.
To any of the
Yes.
police, the 13 of those police, or the 5 gave evidence?
No, it wasn't, my lord. That's why the state was at pains to show that there were no visible injuries. I mean, if they considered from the beginning that the techniques that were used by the police did not leave any visible injuries, and if that version was put to the witnesses, then we could have curtailed the evidence regarding the injuries, my lord.
But is there evidence that after these techniques were used, the alleged assaults resulted in the 2 accused going to hospital?
No, my lord, there's no such proposition was put to the witnesses,
okay.
my lord. In fact, the evidence is that Colonel Rapu said if there were any injuries on accused number 2, he would have immediately stopped the process and referred accused number 2 for medical examination. Then yesterday the court did raise the issue of the vehicles that were on the scene of the arrest of accused number 1 on the 30th of May 2020. We traced the relevant passage. It's on page 13 of the proceedings of the 1st of November 2023. Where Mr. Mngumezulu put the following to the witness. And we read from page 10, Mr. Buthelezi. So any issue about Litabong is not true, then Mr. Mngumezulu at line 11. We will get into those conclusions. My instructions is that you took him to Litabong. After Litabong, that is when you assaulted him. Then Mr. Buthelezi, or Constable Buthelezi said that is not true. Then Mr. Mngumezulu put the following to Constable Buthelezi. Thank you. And I forgot to inform you that my instruction is that it was not only you, Sadiki, and Sergeant Mohola when he was arrested. Constable Buthelezi responded in line 18, well, I want to reiterate that it was me, Sadiki, and Mohola were the only officers who were there, only there as the investigating officer. Then Mr. Mngumezulu at line 20. My instructions is that there were 5 people that he saw with civilian clothes prior to his arrest, and more or less 8 officers that were in full uniform. Then on page 13, Mr. In fact, Constable Buthelezi is still on the same page, line 23, response as follows. Maybe he was seeing somebody else. Then Mr. Mgomezulu put it to Constable Buthelezi that, and you were traveling with 7 motor vehicles. Then on page 14, Constable Buthelezi responds, no, there were only 2 cars there. Then Mr. Mgomezulu put it to the witness that after Letabong, after he was assaulted, accused number 1 messed himself up. And in this regard, we just want to point out that in cross-examination, accused number 1 changed his version to say that he only urinated on himself. And when he was pressed further by my colleague, he indicated that only his lawyer can respond to the version that was put to the witnesses that he messed himself up. So he basically, my lord, refuted the version that he messed himself up, but instead testified that he only urinated upon himself. Then, my lord, continue where we left off. We are at paragraph 7.5. Sergeant Mukhola, accused number 1, has now been detained at Villera Police Station, and the relevant entry has been made in the occurrence book. He has been also served with his notice of right, Exhibit TT. Then Sergeant Mukhola testified that she knocked off, and on the same day, later that day, had to follow up on the information which Brigadier said she must follow up regarding the traditional healer known as Umkhulu, and that accused number 1 is the one who took them to the residence of Umkhulu. That Sergeant Mukhani booked out accused number 1 at her request, and there's an entry with the date Sunday 31st May 2020, and the time is 11:30. The entry reads, investigation out, Sergeant Mukhani from National Cold Case Investigation Unit with 1 male, Moses Temba Sibia. The number of the notice of rights leaflet is indicated there. She testified that she met with Sergeant Mukhani at the provincial head office in Eraton, that Mukhani was traveling in a white Fortuner, and she then asked accused number 1, who was in the Toyota Fortuner, if he was still willing to take them to the traditional healer, and accused number 1 said he was still willing. The court will remember that Brigadier Gininda testified that accused number 1 made a report to him about the traditional healer, and the content of that report forms part of the disputed confession. Then that they left around 12 o'clock. They went to Soweto looking for another traditional healer, and thereafter they then proceeded to Palm Beach. The court will remember that the version that was put to the witness, Sergeant Mukhola, was that she took the phone of accused number 1 and fiddled with the phone, and just by pure coincidence came upon the particulars of the traditional healer, and that is how they got to the traditional healer, which version, my lord, we submit it's implausible.
Were the phones not all confiscated at that stage?
Well, they were, my lord.
So where does Mukhola? Oh, Mukhola got his own phone.
No. The version is that she got the phone of accused number 1. She got hold of the phone of accused number 1.
From where?
And it wasn't
Stated. Okay.
stated. But at that stage, my lord, indeed, the phones were confiscated.
Okay.
I think they also mentioned in their heads that the phone of the accused were confiscated. Then she testified that accused number 1 then pointed out the house of the traditional healer, and my lord, we have seen that the AVL corroborates her version that they were in in and around that area, in Palm Beach, and the streets that they were at. When we deal with the evidence of Mr. Dupree, we'll just briefly touch on that. Then, my lord, she testified further that her colleagues, Sergeant Mokhani, Constable Butelezi, Constable Sadiki, went inside the house, and the late Sergeant Mabena remained in the vehicle. She then jumped in the Toyota Fortuner wherein the accused was and sat next to him, that is next to accused number 1, that her colleagues who went into the house and came out with an old male, and he stood next to the window where accused number 1 was sitting. From where they were inside the vehicle, they were able to see this old man through the window, whilst the window was still closed. She then asked accused number 1 if this was Umkhulu that he was referring to, and accused number 1 then confirmed that it was him. She said it was dark, it was around 1900 hours. Then Umkhulu was then placed under arrest. They left for the provincial office in Eraton. And she had in the meantime informed Brigadier Gininda that they found Umkhulu, and that they were en route to Eraton, where they would meet Brigadier Gininda, and paragraph 7.8. Upon arrival at Eraton, Brigadier Gininda introduced himself to Umkhulu and warned him of his constitutional rights. Then Constable Butelezi came with accused number 1, and as they walk into the office of Brigadier Gininda, Umkhulu made a certain remark which revealed that they know each other. Obviously, we did not put the content of that remark on record. Then Brigadier Gininda requested to speak to Umkhulu, and she then got to know his real name as Mr. Lionel Robert Zwani. after the consultation between Brigadier Gininda and Mr. Lionel Robert Zwane, they proceeded to DPCI offices in Germiston to hand over Umkulu to Colonel Muhlami for the taking down of Mr. Zwane's statement. And thereafter, Mr. Zwane or Umkulu was taken back to his place of residence, and they proceeded to Tembisa with accused number 1 to register a case. And indeed, the case was registered as per Tembisa CAS 1/6/2020. His rights were explained to him, and a copy of the notice of rights was given to him, which has been handed up as Exhibit TT in brackets 2. Sergeant Mukhani then went to book him back at Vilera Police Station, and Sergeant Mukhani then made the relevant entry in the occurrence book Exhibit NN on the 1st of June 2020, and it's serial entry number 5, and it reads as follows. And this entry was made at 01:45, 1:45 in the morning, and it reads as follows. Investigation back, Sergeant Mukhani from National Court Case Investigating Unit with 1 male, Muzi Temba Sibia, without injuries. And there's a signature of the person who received accused number 1. Paragraph 7.10 on page 15. He's then booked out the very same day in order to appear at the Tembisa Magistrate Court. He appears there as per the charge sheet Exhibit 00. The case is then remanded to the 8th of June 2020, and the accused number 1 is then booked back at Valeria Police Station, and there's a corresponding entry there. On the 2nd of June 2020 at 11:05, it says he was received without any injuries. Then paragraph 7.12, we deal with what happened further, my lord. We're not going to dwell on that. Then the next paragraph, there's an entry on Friday, the 5th of June 2020. Occurrence book entry, serial number 326. The time is 08:01 and reads as follows. Investigation out, Sergeant Mukhani with 1 male for dealing in drugs, Muzi Temba Sibia. The notice of right number appears there, as well as the Tembisa CAS 217/3/2019. Says no injuries, correctly received, and the Sergeant Mukhani's signature appended. This is when he was taken to Alberton, my lord, to make the pointing out. We have seen on Exhibit KK that he was indeed received at Alberton police cells, and there's also relevant entries in Exhibit KK. I'll get to Exhibit KK just now in a moment, my lord. My colleague will just try and locate exhibit KK. But the effect of the entry, my lord, is that accused number 1 was received at Alberton police cells without any injuries. And after the pointings out, he was handed back to Sergeant Mukhani without any injuries. Then there's a further entry at entry number, we found the exhibit KK, my lord, indebted to my colleague. It reads as follows: entry 317 at 12 o'clock. Entry reads as follows: suspect handed in for pointing out by Sergeant Mukhani of National Cold Case Investigating Unit, Muzi Temba Sibia, free from visible injuries. Then at 12:24, entry 318 reads as follows: suspect taken by Colonel Hadebe for pointing out on Fossilers car 636/10/2014. Sergeant Hadebe has signed for the suspect, correctly received. Then there's a further entry on the same day, 5 June 2020, at 14:16, entry 325, which reads as follows: suspect back from pointing out, Muzi Temba Sibia, correctly received, free from injuries. Then at 14:28, there's a further entry 317 to the effect that suspect transferred to Valeria police station.
Yeah, but what is the significance? If I follow the evidence, there were photographs taken 1 to 7 and 31 to 36, something like that.
Yes, 26, yes.
Yeah,
26
what
to
is the
31.
significance of those photographs?
Well, as we indicated yesterday, my lord, that the significance of those photographs indicated the accused was made to take off his clothes, the top part, clothes on the top part of his body, to indicate that before the pointings out commenced that he had no injuries. Those are photos 1 to 7, and photos 26 to 31 were taken after the pointings out to indicate that the accused had no injuries.
Okay.
Then there's an entry when accused was booked back at Villera police cells, entry 345 at 18:01, reads as follows: Muzi Temba Sibia, correctly received, and there's also the signature of the person who received him. Then paragraph 7.13, we deal with the events of the 6th of June. My lord, we're not going to dwell on that. Accused number 1 then appeared in court on the 8th of June 2020. The case was then postponed to the 19th of June 2020 as per paragraph 7.14. Then paragraph 7.15, we mentioned that the evidence of Sergeant Mohola is confirmed by the SWAT members, Constable Botelezi, who was present during the arrest of accused number 1 on the 30th of May 2020. And furthermore, by the evidence of Constable Mapumulo and Monaring regarding the taking down of the confession of accused number 1, who Constable Monaring and Mapumlo escorted accused number 1 to Diepkloof Police Station to make a statement to Lieutenant Colonel Mboto.
Yeah, but for my elucidation, escorted from where? Because I recall
Eraton.
accused number 1 denies ever being at Errington on that particular day.
Yes, the evidence is that he was escorted from Eraton to Diepkloof Police Station.
Yeah, not, well, he
Yes.
says
Yes.
from Fort Luras they took him to Moroka.
Yeah, initially Mr. Mgomezulu said Moroga, then he corrected himself
see.
to say Diepkloof.
Diepkloof, sorry. Okay,
Yes,
fine.
but the evidence is that after his arrest, he was taken to Araton, and then arrangements were made, and Constable Mapumulo and Monaren then came to fetch him from Araton and
Yeah,
took
fine.
him to
I
Diepkloof.
appreciate that, but was there an OB entry at Errington to say accused number 1 was dispatched to Diepkloof and subsequently also that he was returned back to Errington? Or are you saying he was returned to Pretoria, Villiers?
Yeah, we must keep in mind, my lord, that Araton is just merely
it's
offices
transit.
of detectives, so they would not have the occurrence books, but there is an entry from Diepkloof Police Station by Lieutenant Colonel Mboto on the 30th of May 2020, which serves as Exhibit NN. It was made at 23:58, and it says report Colonel Mboto at Diepkloof, room 1 at Client Service Center, and confession statement obtained from Mzikaukulelwa Stemba Sibia, from 1818 Vusimusi Squatter Camp in Tembisa. Time is from 21:45 till now. And the question arises, my lord, as to how would Lieutenant Colonel Mboto have known the address of accused number 1, that address which appears here, 1818 Vusimusi Squatter Camp. If the confession was not taken down as testified to by Lieutenant Colonel Mboto, then we, at paragraph 8, page 16, we deal with the events leading up to arrest of accused number 2. That will then conclude the evidence regarding the arrests of accused number 1 and the making down and the taking down of his confession and the pointing out. We now deal with accused number 2. Sergeant Mohani and the late Sergeant Mabena, according to testimony of Sergeant Mohani, were involved in the arrest of accused number 2 on the 16th of June 2020. Sergeant Mohani testified that he joined the National Cold Case Unit headed by Brigadier Gininda, and that his duties entailed the collection of dockers from all over South Africa. It says while they were conducting their investigation, the name of Bongani Ntanzi, accused number 2, came up. We give the relevant references in the record, but we're not going to read them out. They discovered that he worked for a certain mine in Western area and staying in Phokeng, Rustenburg. They gathered some information regarding his whereabouts. And he says in their investigation they discovered that he's also involved in this case. They went to look for, the profile team went to look for other cases wherein he was involved, and they found those cases. They found out that he's also a suspect in the case of murder in Nongoma, where a gun was found. Paragraph 8.2, on 16 June 2020, they arrived at Ntanzi's room in Phokeng and arrested him in the presence of his girlfriend. They told him that they were arresting him for the Nongoma case and explained his rights to him. They arrested him and took him to Pretoria North Police Station. They arrived there around 2200 hours. He then handed over his written rights to accused number 2 after explaining them to him, and he signed for those notice of rights. This is as per Exhibit LL in brackets 1. And they handed him that notice of rights. Then the next day, which was the 16th of June 2020, they went to interview accused number 2 as they could not do it the previous day as it was already late. And an entry is made in the occurrence book, which is Exhibit MM, serial number 494 at 1655, and reads as follows. Investigation out, Detective Sergeant Mokhani of National Cold Case Unit, with one suspect, Nongoma, case 163/10/2020, with one suspect without injuries. Correctly received, and Sergeant Mokhani countersigned for that entry. Testified that they informed Brigadier Gininda that they would be going to see accused number 2, Mr. Ntanzi, and on arrival in the boardroom, they interviewed him about the Nongoma case. They asked him where he was on the 26th of October 2014 when the deceased Mr. Senzo Meyiwa was killed. He claimed to have been at work at Sibanye Stillwater Mine in Western Area. They told him that he's a suspect in the murder of Mr. Senzo Meyiwa. They asked him if he could take them to the said mine to go and verify if indeed he was on duty on that specific day at the mine, and he then agreed to take them there. And since it was late in the day, they told him that they were going to fetch him the following day to go to Sibanye Stillwater with him. They took him back to the cells. An entry was made in the occurrence book with serial number 498 at 1955, and it reads as follows. Investigation back, Detective Sergeant Mokhani of National Cold Case Unit, book back with no injuries, and the entry is countersigned by Sergeant Mokhani. Paragraph 8.4, my lord, regarding the interpretation,
Yeah,
I
no,
think
we'll do
the
it.
state can proceed, and when we're
Yeah,
done.
that's it, yeah, after.
Paragraph 8.4, he then called Brigadier Gininda and informed him that the suspect accused number 2 had agreed to take them the next day on the 18th of June 2020 to where he claimed he was on duty. Then on the 18th of June 2020, he arrived at the cells, and an entry was made in this regard. It's occurrence book, Exhibit MM at 0815, serial number 520, reads as follows: investigation out. Detective Sergeant Mokhani booked out one male suspect of Nongoma, case 16310/2018 Bongani Ntanzi, and the notice of rights number, the SAP 14 number, without any injuries, and Sergeant Mokhani countersigned for that. He then informed Brigadier Gininda that they were going with accused number 2 to where he works at the mine. Then Brigadier Gininda informed him that he was going to join them, and Sergeant together with Sergeant Mohola, he testified that he again warned accused number 2 of his rights before they departed. They then placed accused number 2 inside the car and they went with him, and he was the one directing them to Western area. He took them to that specific mine where he worked at Sibanye Stillwater. On arrival, they waited outside the gate for Brigadier Gininda to arrive. He arrived together with Sergeant Mohola. He introduced Brigadier Gininda to Mr. Ntanzi, and Brigadier Gininda also introduced himself to Mr. Ntanzi. Brigadier Gininda once again also explained his rights to him. Brigadier Gininda asked him where he was on the day that Mr. Senzo Meyiwa was killed. He also informed him that he was a suspect in the case of the murder of Mr. Senzo Meyiwa. Mr. Ntanzi said that he does not know anything because he was at work on that day. They went together with Mr. Ntanzi into the mine to the human resource section. They checked in their records if Mr. Ntanzi was on duty on this specific day, that is now the 26th of October 2014, and they discovered that he was not on duty on that day, and a statement to that effect was given by the human resource manager. Then paragraph 8.7. Brigadier Gininda then showed Mr. Ntanzi an identikit with a hood on, which serves as Exhibit BB before this court, and warned him again of his rights. Then accused number 2 then made certain admissions to him. Mr. Gininda, Brigadier Gininda then informed accused number 2 that he will arrange for someone to take down his statement. Mr. Ntanzi was then taken back to the police station, and my lord, the visit to Sibanye Stillwater is also confirmed by the AVL regarding their movements whilst they were there at the mine. They then took Mr. Ntanzi back to the police station. In cross-examination, he added that the car broke down at an engine garage in Magistrate, Alberton, around midnight. We will come back to this aspect when we deal with the AVLs.
Sorry, before you go there, something just struck me. The HR manager at Sibanye, was it not Mr. Dutoit who came to give evidence here?
Yeah, it's Mr. Meller, I think.
Is it Meller?
Yeah, Mr. Meller.
Is that the gentleman who said he would come with an affidavit?
Yes.
He hasn't done so, no?
He did, my lord, and it was handed up
Was it?
together with the records.
Okay. Because I remember he came in here and then he said he had forgotten certain documents. And then he was given an indulgence to go and fetch those documents. Alternatively, he must make an affidavit with the consent of the defense if they so agree in terms of section 220.
Yes. He did this, so Exhibit DD, my lord.
Is that so?
Yes.
Okay.
Annex 2 is the additional statement of Mr. Miller.
Okay.
And there's Exhibit DD, Annex 1 is the Capitec Bank statement of accused number 2.
Okay.
Then accused, well, we're still mentioning that Sergeant Mukhani testified that they had this breakdown at the engine garage, something that he mentioned in cross-examination, and that they went to Eraton, and accused number 2 was booked in the cells, and a relevant entry was made in Exhibit MM, serial number 531 at 02:30, 2:30 in the morning, and it reads as follows: investigation back, Detective Sergeant of National Cold Case Unit booked back one suspect of murder, Nongoma, CAS 1636-2018, and the notice of rights number, booked back without any complaints or injuries, correctly handed in, and Sergeant Mukhani countersigned that entry. Then there's also another entry, 532 at 02:35, 25 minutes to 3, stating that Sergeant Mukhani charged one male suspect of murder on Nongoma, CAS 163/6/2018, charged correctly without any complaints or visible injuries, and Sergeant Mukhani countersigned that entry. He testified that he had to take accused number 2 to Force Lores Court on the 19th of June 2020, and he booked him out and made an entry in Exhibit MM, serial number 534 at 04:50, 10 minutes before 5 in the morning on the 19th of June 2020. And it reads as follows: prisoner transferred, Detective Sergeant Mukhani of National Cold Case Unit with one male suspect of murder, was fetched to Force Lores Court without any injuries or complaint, that they then left for Force Lores Court. He testified that en route to Force Lores Court between 5 and 5:30 in the morning, he got a call from Brigadier Gininda. Brigadier Gininda informed them that he had found someone that was going to be able to take the confession of Ntanzi, as we had just pointed out that when they were at Stillwater mine, Brigadier Gininda undertook to find someone to take down his confession after he made certain admissions to him. Now, on the 19th, he then telephoned Sergeant Mukhani to say, I did find that person who will be able to take down the confession of Mr. Ntanzi, and that they should proceed to Moroka Police Station before proceeding to Force Lores Court. He told them that they were going to find Lieutenant Colonel Rapu there. He was going to take Mr. Ntanzi's statement. He testified that he then made necessary arrangements for the escort with the SWAT members. Then upon reaching Soweto, they went, the SWAT members were clearing traffic for them until they reached Moroka Police Station. He then called Lieutenant Colonel Gininda again to ask him to inform Lieutenant Colonel Rapu that they had arrived. Then Lieutenant Colonel Rapu informed them where exactly he was sitting within the police station. He then asked Constable Jonathan of the Metro Police Ekurhuleni to take Mr. Ntanzi to Lieutenant Colonel Rapu. And after that, he came back and sat with them in the car. Constable Jonathan then went inside the police station and came back with Mr. Ntanzi. This was, after the elapse of considerable time. When Mr. Ntanzi came back, he asked him if he was still fine, if he does not have any problem. And Mr. Ntanzi confirmed that he had no complaints. They got into the car and then went to First Lawrence Court. And his evidence, my lord, is supported by the AVL, which shows that they arrived at Moroka Police Station at 6:46 on the 19th of June. It shows that the ignition is off near Makalima Street, Moroka, and the vehicle remains there until 11:59, when it starts and it drives off at 12 o'clock, a minute later. It's interesting, my lord, what the explanation of the defense is regarding the time that the vehicle spent at Moroka Police Station on the 19th of June at that particular time. And in paragraph 15.4 of the heads, they state the following: accused 2 denies that he met Rapu on the morning of the 19th of June 2020 as alleged by the police officers who testified in court. He testified that upon arrival at the location where he was taken that morning, Mukhani entered the building at that place and remained there for a long time. So in other words, my lord, they are suggesting that since the arrival there at 16:46, Sergeant Mukhani went into the building and emerged at about just before 12 o'clock. It's just in excess of 5 hours. If we look at Exhibit HH, the confession statement of accused number 2 to Lieutenant Colonel Rapu, it supports the version of Sergeant Mukhani as well as the AVL. The preamble Exhibit H of Exhibit HH indicates that they arrived, or that the taking down of the confession started at 7:30 in the morning. So that will tie up, my lord, with the time of arrival, which was 40 minutes to 7. Some 40 minutes later, the taking down of the statement commenced, and we see on Exhibit HH that Colonel Rapu finished taking down the statement at 11:47. That is now 13 minutes to 12. Then at 12 o'clock, the vehicle then left. we submit, my lord, that this ties up the time that is indicated on the confession corresponds with the time reflected in the AVL. Coming back to our heads, my lord, we are at page, the bottom of page 18. They then set off to go to Foslores Court. They arrived at the Foslores Court on page 19, my lord, paragraph 8.11. They arrive at the, after arrival at the Foslores Court, there's a relevant entry confirming the arrival there. Exhibit UU and Exhibit UU12, the cell phone occurrence book and the cell phone register respectively, which indicate that the case Foslores CAS 534/6/2020 was not enrolled. It testified that the decision was taken not to release accused number 2, as they had to go look for the hoodie in his room in Pukeng. They proceeded to Moroka Police Station, as they had, as Sergeant Mabena had forgotten his keys there. And this is also confirmed by the AVL report. They then departed about 2 hours later from Moroka Police Station to Pukeng.
Yeah, before you get there, is it not so that the version of accused number 2, is it? He was assaulted at that ATM site. What is supposed to be the time when he was assaulted?
Yes. Well, they just say in the afternoon.
Afternoon?
Yes, they say in the afternoon. He was assaulted there at the disused ATMs near the sign that showed Orlando. So
Afternoon?
Yes, in the afternoon. So in other words, they are saying that the assault took place when they were returning from the Foslores Court and going back to Moroka Police Station for the second time.
I see.
Yes. And this version, my lord, is not supported by the AVL. There's no indication, my lord, that there was any deviation, and Mr. Dupree did indicate that there was no such deviation to a place near Orlando where they were disused ATM machines. Then paragraph 8.12, they arrive in Pukeng, go to the police station, arrange for escort. They go to accused number 2's room. They search for the hoodie that appears on the identity kit as per Exhibit BB. It testified that there were some hoodies of similar colors, but they did not find the one that has the color that appeared in the identity kit. Testified that they found 13 rifle bullets in the black plastic bag, in the wardrobe that is being used by accused number 2. And Mr. Ntanzi was then charged for possession of ammunition and process at Pukeng Police Station as per Exhibit PP, the occurrence book, and Exhibit PP1, the cell register. The occurrence book, Exhibit PP, indicates that the accused had no injuries. The notice of rights as per Exhibit LL was read out and explained to the accused by Sergeant Mohani. That accused number 2 was then transferred to Primrose Police Station as per Exhibit QQ, and Exhibit QQ, the occurrence book of Primrose Police Station, indicate that accused number 2 was booked in the cells without any injuries. He was then booked out on the 22nd of June 2020 at 17:15 to attend court in Tlhabani as per Exhibit RR. He was also seen by Dr. Tlokwe, a dentist, on the same day, and his report has been handed up as Exhibit VV in brackets 1. And Dr. Tlokwe also testified in court. He testified that he saw no injuries on accused number 2, and accused number 2 did also not mention any injuries to him. Then accused number 2 made 2 court appearances on the 22nd and 29th of June in Tlhabani Magistrate Court, and from the 13th of July 20 onwards, Mr. Mjiako came on record on behalf of accused number 2. Then page 20 on paragraph 8.13. From the court appearance in Tlhabani on the 26th of June 2020, accused number 2 was taken to Pretoria Moot Police Station, and he was detained there as per Exhibit SS, and an entry in this regard was made. Serial number 16661 at 1500 hours reads as follows. Prisoner received Sergeant Mohani from National Cold Case Unit of Pretoria, handed in 1 mail, Bongani Sindiso Ntanzi, Pukenkas 118/6/2020, possession of unlicensed ammunition without any visible injuries. Then there's a further entry in Exhibit SS on Wednesday, 24 June 2020, serial number 1826 at 13:20, reads as follows. Investigation out, Sergeant Mohani out with 1 male, National Cold Case Investigation, Bongani Ntanzi, and the notice of rights number appears there, and it reads without injuries and no complaints. Then Sergeant Mohani countersigned for that entry. Sergeant Mohani was taking accused number 2 to go and make a confession as arranged with Brigadier Gininda, who said that they should take him to Boksburg Magistrate Court. He was accompanied by the late Sergeant Mabena. They were escorted by the Ekurhuleni Metro Police. Brigadier Gininda had informed him that when they arrived at Boksburg Magistrate Court, they should take Mr. Bongani Ntanzi to the office of the senior prosecutor, which they did. They were then shown the office of Mrs. Cronje. Upon arrival, Sergeant Mohani introduced himself to the magistrate and indicated that he had brought accused number 2 to her for a confession. He then asked for his appointment card, appointment certificate, and that of Constable Lissering from Ekurhuleni Metro. That inside the offices of the magistrate there was, as he called him, Advocate Mjiako, who was a legal representative of Mr. Ntanzi. They went out of the office and the magistrate closed the door, and then Mr. Ntanzi was left inside the office together with the magistrate and a certain woman who was the interpreter and also Advocate Mjiyako. They waited outside until the magistrate was finished with Mr. Ntanzi. Paragraph 8.15, when the magistrate was finished, she opened the door, she said she was finished and that they can take the accused. They then took accused number 2 and went into the car and took him back to Procedural police station. And a relevant entry was made on Wednesday, 24 June 2020, serial number 1857, and the time is 1910. Reads as follows: investigation back. Sergeant Mukhani back with 1 male, Bongani Ntanzi, without any visible injuries, back correctly and countersigned by Sergeant Mukhani. And we submit that Constable Jonathan and Lizering's evidence confirm the evidence of Sergeant Mukhani. Then on page 21, paragraph 9, we deal briefly with the evidence of the commissioned officers as well as the evidence of Magistrate Cronje, who took down the confession statement of accused number 1 and 2, as well as the evidence of Ms. Mutlaping, the interpreter. We deal first with Exhibit FF, which was taken down, the confession of accused number 1, which was taken down by Lieutenant Colonel Mboto. He testified that on 30 May 2020 at about 1900 hours, he received a call from Brigadier Gininda requesting him to assist in taking down of a confession. He made arrangements to take down the confession at Deep Kloof Police Station. Constable Monareng of Ekurhuleni Metro Police brought the suspect in room 1, which was allocated to him for the purpose of taking down the confession. He took the form and then completed the form step by step and took down the, referring to the preamble, and took down the confession statement of accused number 1 as per Exhibit FF on the 30th of May 2020 at Deep Kloof Police Station. He made an entry, my lord, that we've already placed on record. Then paragraph 9.2, he testified that after the completion of the statement, he handed him back to the policeman who brought him to him. He then arranged with Brigadier Gininda to come to his office and to collect the statement. Seeing that it was the weekend, Brigadier Gininda came on Monday to collect the statement from his office on the first day of the week. And here we made reference to the fact that it was put to him that the proforma was never read back to accused number 1, and Colonel Mboto testified that it was read back to him. That is why accused number 1 managed to make some corrections in some points, as we indicated yesterday, my lord, at paragraph 14.3.
Yeah, but pertinently, was it put to Mboto that no corrections were made
Yes.
by
That is
accused
very
number 1?
yes.
Logic dictates that they
Yes.
were consequently made by Mboto.
Yes. I tried to scour the record, my lord, to check if this aspect was disputed, but I couldn't find a portion. My learned friends, perhaps, if
Okay, they'll deal with it.
if they could find the portion, but I couldn't find the portion where this fact is disputed, that that accused number accused number 1 did point out to Lieutenant Colonel Boto that there was a mistake at paragraph 14.3, and that mistake was then rectified when the statement was read back to him.
That mistake is rectified on the pro forma form.
No,
Not on the statement. It's on the statement itself.
The pro forma is completed, then they go over to the statement.
Fine, okay.
Yes. Now, when the statement was read back to him,
Yeah.
he then said, there's a mistake at a certain paragraph. I think it was paragraph
Okay,
3
fine,
of
fine.
paragraph 3 of the statement. Now, in the pro forma, there's a section that asks, was the statement read back to him? Now, in that portion on the preamble, he then indicated that at paragraph 3 of the statement, a correction was made at the request of accused number 1.
Okay.
The relevant portion reads as follows. It's actually paragraph 14.1 of the preamble. Note down whether he also read through the statement. Then he made the following note: the suspect never read the statement himself, but only rectified the officer about paragraph 3. And that portion has been redacted, my lord, and we can therefore not place on record what is the correction that he made. Then the Exhibit GG, that's the evidence of Lieutenant Colonel N.J. Hadebe. He testified that Brigadier Gininda requested him on the 4th of June 2020 at 13:31 to conduct the pointings out. He conducted the pointings out by accused number 1 on the 5th of June 2020. Exhibit GG is the pointing out of the scene that was completed by himself at Alberton Police Station at office number 31. He confirmed that photos were taken during the pointings out. Photos 2 to 7, 26 to 13 are part of the photos that were taken during the proceedings there in room number 31. He testified that photo 4 shows that accused with his clothes, the top clothes removed, and his bare-chested, which also was to confirm that there were no injuries. Also to confirm that he did not have any injuries on his body. Testify that photo 5 shows the accused looking to the left hand side, still not wearing anything on top. He says the purpose was to check any injuries on his body. Photo 6 shows the accused facing the opposite side, the opposite direction without anything on top, showing that he had no injuries. Then photo 7 shows the accused facing the left hand. And without his top. And the intention was also to check for injuries. He testified that after the completion of the pointings out, the following photos were taken. This is photos 26 to 31, and photo 28 shows the accused without any top on, his bare chested. He says the purpose is also to check on any other injuries that he might have sustained. Then it said photo 29 shows accused 1 facing the left-hand side, bare-breasted without any injuries. And photo 30 shows him facing the opposite side, bare-breasted without any injuries. And photo 31 shows him facing the right-hand side and without any injuries. Now that we've already referred to Exhibit KK, where after the arrival of the accused at the Alberton police station, an entry was made that he had no injuries, and also after the completion of the pointings out at 1416, there's an entry that says suspect back from pointings out, Muzi Temba, correctly received, free from injuries. Then we deal with the evidence of Magistrate V. Grenier, Exhibit JJ, at paragraph 9.5. She testified that the senior magistrate, who is also the office head of the magistrate court in Boksburg, Mrs. Dupree, telephoned her on the 24th of June 2020 at 11 o'clock in the morning, where she was performing duty at Foslores Magistrate Court, which is a branch court of Boksburg Magistrate Court, requesting her to conduct the taking down of a confession at the Boksburg Magistrate Court. She testified that she then proceeded to Boksburg Magistrate Court, and she proceeded to room 2, which was allocated to her for the taking down of the confession. She testified that she saw a number of armed Ekurhuleni Metro Police officers who had congregated in the particular corridor. She requested Constable Lisering to compile a list of all those Ekurhuleni Metro Police officers who were there, paragraph 9.6. She set up her computer and also prepared her documents, whereafter she then went out to the senior magistrate. She was then provided with a pro forma form which was not completed, which now serves as Exhibit JJ. She moved into the office. She testified that there was a police officer who was wearing private clothing, who was later known as Sergeant Mokhane in the corridor. She says the interpreter also moved into the office, and there was a gentleman in handcuffs who also moved into the room, as well as the person that accompanied the gentleman in handcuffs who was wearing a suit, who also went into the room. Sergeant Mokhane then informed her that he was from the National Cold Case Investigating Unit in Pretoria, and that he was the person who brought the deponent to the office. She requested Sergeant Mokhane to produce his appointment certificate, which he did, and she also made a request for him to make a copy or copies of that appointment certificate for it to be attached to the confession. She testified that after Sergeant Mokhane had provided her with all the details, that is the police station, the case number, his particulars, where he was coming from, she requested him to leave the office, and the door was then closed. People that were in the office at that time was herself, the interpreter, the person in handcuffs, as well as the person that was wearing the suit. She then spoke to the deponent in a more informal way, just to let him be at ease. If maybe there was an issue, any problems with him. she spoke to him in English and it was interpreted. And in that conversation, he informed her, that is now this person in handcuffs, informed her that Mr. Mjiako, the person in the suit, was his legal representative. He further, there is now case number 2, he further informed her that he would like to proceed in the presence of Mr. Mjiako. Mr. Mjiako then produced to her his appointment certificate as well as his Fidelity Fund certificate with a number which she noted on this document, and this number is 04415 of 2020. She testified that after going through all the standard questions as per Exhibit JJ, which are from question number 1 up to question number 13, as well as taking down the confession, where accused number 2 said everything that he wanted to say. Every page was then interpreted back to him, and after herself and the person with whom she had the interview with, known as Mr. Bongani Ntanzi, had indicated that he was satisfied, then she requested him to sign each and every page in her presence, in the presence of the interpreter, as well as in the presence of his legal representative, Mr. Mjiako. It was also initialed by the interpreter and the deponent, being accused number 2, and she stamped this document. The stamp used is a stamp that was allocated to her in person and signed out to her as a magistrate. Paragraph 9.9 is just a repetition of the previous paragraph. Paragraph 9.1. After the parties had left the office, that includes the interpreter, the deponent, his attorney, she then handed the document to Mrs. Duplessis, the head of office. Ms. Duplessis then made copies of the documents and handed her a copy later that week. The evidence of Ms. Cronje is confirmed or corroborated by the interpreter, Mrs. Mutlaping. She confirmed the presence of the legal representative. She testified that the gentleman referring to Mr. Mjiako said that he was a legal representative of the suspect at the time, and that this was confirmed by the suspect himself after he was asked by the presiding officer. She confirmed her signature as appears on page 8 of Exhibit JJ, and she testified as follows, and we quote, "My Lord, my overall impression was that, of course, looking at the demeanor of the suspect at the time, he appeared to me like somebody who really wanted to speak, whatever it was that he wanted to say." And this we see on page 33, lines 2 to 5 of that record of the 23rd of October 2023. Regarding the signing of the statement by the accused, she testified as follows, that, and we quote, "He signed it in my presence because I'm the one that gave him the pen." And this appears on page 34, lines 3 to 4. Then next we deal with the evidence of Lieutenant Colonel Rapadu, which is...
Yeah, sorry. Before you come to that, What do you make of the evidence of accused 2 that Mjiako was not his attorney? Actually, there was some vacillation from Mr. Mgomezulu and Mr. Rapesele. There was no acknowledgement initially that Mjiako
Yes.
was present.
Indeed, my lord.
That's the impression I got.
It was actually denied that
Yeah.
he was present initially.
That's it, initially. Fine. Subsequently, okay, because it appears everybody saw this gentleman in a suit. Jonathan,
Mukhani and the interpreter.
that's it. Even Mr. Lissering, apparently. Anyway, what do you make of an attorney like me, who is defending accused number 2, and he tells me that Giaco was not acting on his behalf? What would you do if you get those instructions?
Well, to start with, one would have expected accused number 2 to actively dissociate himself from Mr. Mjiako, to tell the magistrate that this is not my legal representative. I've got nothing to do with him. May he please be excused from the room. But in fact, he's pertinently asked by Ms. Cronje if he was his legal representative. He confirms to Ms. Cronje that it's indeed his legal representative.
I see.
And Sergeant Mukhani also testified that earlier, even before they went into the office, he asked he asked accused number 2 who the gentleman was, and he confirmed that he was his legal representative. So, my lord, everything points to the fact that the accused did mention that Mr. Mjiako was his legal representative, and this is confirmed by subsequent events. On the 27th of October 2020, when the accused appeared in the Boksburg Magistrate Court for the first time, Mr. Mjiako is there. So it's not as if, my lord, he only appeared on the 24th of June 2020 when he appeared in court. Several months later, on the 27th of October 2020, at the Boksburg Magistrate Court, Mr. Mjiako is there. And he also confirms on record. The magistrate asked him if he's appearing for accused number 2. He confirms that indeed he appears for accused number 2, and accused number 2 confirms that he doesn't dissociate himself from Mr. Mjiako.
Okay.
And we must also remember on the 23rd of June 2020 at Procedural Police Station, Brigadier Gininda testified that he was called to the police station to say that there's this gentleman who wants to see accused number 2. He then went there, and accused number 2 once again confirmed that, in fact, according to Brigadier Gininda, he's the one who introduced who had introduced Mr. Mjiako as his legal representative. And Mr. Mjiako then handed a document to Brigadier Gininda, which serves as Exhibit YY. It's a letter from the Legal Practice Council dated 5 May 2020, confirming the enrollment of Mr. Dominic Ntokozo Mjiako as a legal practitioner. Now, the question is, where would Brigadier Gininda have received Exhibit YY if it wasn't from Mr. Mjiako on the 23rd of June 2020 at Pretoria Police Station? And, my lord, once again, it is inconceivable that a magistrate will come and tell this court that there was this gentleman in a suit in the office. The gentleman introduced himself as Mjiako, representing accused number 2, if that was not the case. She even noted the Fidelity Fund
Yeah.
certificate
Okay.
on the on Exhibit JJ.
You know, me, maybe it's an abrupt response. Would you say it's the conduct of a diligent attorney who fiercely defends his client's rights, where this issue of Mjiako masquerading, according to accused number 2's version, as the legal representative of accused number 2, why would a diligent attorney who's competent not report that Mr. Mjiako to the LPC,
Well,
and actually further report him to the South African police because he's committing a fraud?
yes, indeed, my lord. One would have expected that to happen. But as we pointed out, even subsequent events at the Boksburg Magistrate Court where he was present confirmed indeed that he was his legal representative.
Okay.
Then briefly, my lord, on page 24, we deal with the evidence of Lieutenant Colonel Rapu. We just forgot to insert his name there just above paragraph 9.12. Rapu, yes. He testified that on 18th of June 2020 at about 2000 hours, he received a call from Brigadier Gininda. He requested him to assist in obtaining a conversion, and he agreed. And on the following day, the 19th of June 2020, at 10 to 7 in the morning, the same brigadier contacted him just for confirmation. He then proceeded to Moroka Police Station. He was given a room next to a crime office at the Moroka Police Station. The accused or the suspect was then brought to him by Constable Jonathan of Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, and left him in the office and closed the door. He then continued with the interview of the accused and recording his responses as in Exhibit HH. He testified that the form was part of his state-issued stationery. After completion of the statement, it was signed by himself and the accused. He then took the statement with him, and it was collected from his office by the investigating officer, Brigadier Gininda 2 days later. Then we deal briefly with the automated vehicle location evidence. This was presented via Mr. Michael Dupree, who testified that is attached to C-Track Fleet Management as its chief executive officer. C-Track Fleet Management provides solutions to the South African Police Force in terms of the automatic vehicle locator system that they install in the SAPS vehicles. Testify that they've been awarded a tender to install tracking devices in SAPS vehicles fleet. This entails their staff installing the hardware in the SAPS vehicles. This hardware is equipped with a GPS. There's also a GSM modem with a SIM card in it. And this device is then connected to the wiring of the SAP vehicle. It says GPS represents global positioning system. That is just a normal location service. It allows them to know where the vehicle is. And he explained that the acronym GSM denotes cellular network. So it is just a means of communication from the device to another environment. It is a cellular communication. He testified that the system will then allow the system that is installed is connected to the vehicle, and that allows them to know where the vehicle is, whether the vehicle is switched on, switched off, is traveling, whether it's standing still, and at which speed it's traveling, and where it is at a given time. Testify that the data collected on the vehicle is then relayed or transmitted over to the GSM network to a centralized environment located at Numeris, and he mentioned that Numeris is just the name of a building, and that is the premises of the State Information Technology, or SITA. It testified that the AVL data is housed in this environment, and from this environment it can be accessed by registered users, and that such registered users will only have access to vehicles that are allowed, that they are allowed to see or is allocated to their center. Hence, they were able to, he testified that data is collated over a period of time and is then stored in a database, and from within this database, authorized users can then gain access to the historical data of a vehicle for a defined period. Hence, the users were able to, hence users are able to compile data like Exhibit MM before this court, giving a detailed data of a vehicle over a period of time, though it may be a number of years later. He testified that paragraph 9.15, he received a request in this matter for AVL records regarding a Toyota Fortuner. The registration number of this vehicle is Foxtrot Victor 47 Lima Romeo Golf Papa. In other words, FV 47 LRGP, and the Bobby number would be, in other words, the police number would be Bravo Tango Lima 719 Bravo. So it's BTL 719B. He said upon receiving the request, he extracted data from the SAPS database and produced a paper copy as per Exhibit MM in brackets 2. It's the A3 version, the bigger pages, and there's also the A4 version, which is Exhibit MM2A, which are exactly the same. Testify that the information supplied will be the vehicle itself, the registration, its registration number, and that it will also reflect the Bobby number, the B registration plate, linked to that specific registration number. So that it will also then display the date, the time, the vehicle status will also be reflected, and the vehicle status will be will indicate whether the vehicle is driving, whether the vehicle is switched off, and what is the vehicle doing at that particular date and time. It will also display the speed and the odometer of the vehicle. the odometer being the data that refers to the distance traveled between two positions, and then the location of the vehicle is reflected as a point of reference on the map, and also the longitude and the latitude. Then paragraph 9.16, the witness then testified that on the 19th of June 2020 at 04:50, the vehicle is near Benfeld Street in Pretoria North. The vehicle then left the police station and given the route or the, given the routes of the vehicle, there is no evidence that this vehicle did anything out of the ordinary except travel on the roads towards its destination, where it arrived at 06:20, which was at Moroka Police Station. There's that empty space on page 26. On page 27, the court asked the following question on the 24th of November 2023 at page 5 regarding the fact that the vehicle went into GPS unlock mode. In other words, it was unable to pick up a signal, and the court asks as follows. So this vehicle, if it is going to Morocco, going from, it says Araten, it moves around that area, Chris Hani. So I just said I should mention it because, nobody mentioned it. Then Mr. Dupree responded, "My Lord, thank you very much." Then the court asked, just check if that bridge is there, because you spoke about a roof which could possibly interfere with the reception of the GPS. You remember? Then Mr. Dupree said, "My Lord, absolutely," and he did show that bridge on the on the screen.
Yeah, just one aspect. I'm sure it will show in the evidence. A judge has the right or is entitled to take judicial notice of any phenomena or fact which is notorious and known in that area. And I indicated that that bridge, Paraguanath Bridge, it's a geographical phenomena which is constant and constantly there since it was built in the 60s or 70s. And this, I said, it's because Mr. Dupree said the satellite transmission of the vehicle is affected by the lack of contact with the mechanism in the vehicle as it records because of the surface it encounters. There is the bridge which was displayed in court. It's a huge bridge, cement, and that satellite can't pierce through cement, common cause.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Indeed, my Lord. I see that there's an indication that there's a request for adjournment, but
Adjournment, okay.
We are ready to proceed.
What time is it?